Hey, do you wonder how to make a display base for your miniature from scratch? In this video I'll show you everything, from building it, painting it and matching the colors with your miniature. Okay, here we have a root that I found on a garden and dried. And with these tools I'm trying to break it down, find a way to make it fit the base. So I broke out a little piece and I'm seeing if it fits the plinth that I've chosen. It's as easy as it seems, finding these type of things in nature, dry them, store them, and then use them in your bases. And it often helps to just pick up stuff and put it in place on the base without thinking too much. You can always change it and make it better with time and a little bit of work. But usually there is a paralyzing fear. I have it too, to start on a base, but it doesn't need to be like this at all. You can just start and see how it goes. For example, right now I was checking how big I wanted and if it was fitting the model, and then I put in place some wood parts. And then with milliput I am filling it to cover the wood and to make a texture that is easier to paint, because painting the wood is not easy, so I'm covering it. And I'm making this root look like a stone, actually. That is my purpose. It's actually fun, this type of part, because you can work relaxed, listening to music, and putting the milliput into the base. With this rubber tool I'm smoothing it out a little bit and making it stick well. Actually, these type of rubber tools are very useful in general to make conversions in modeling. So now I skipped the part where I fit all the putty around, and with water plus this tool I'm smoothing everything out. I now use this instrument to file a little bit the putty and create these slabs of rock, this little indentation to make it look like stone instead of being wood, and make all the putty and the base a unified look of a rock. So I'm going all around the base to do exactly this. So now I'm picking up this little root, these little branches that I found in a shop for Christmas decorations, actually, and I am cutting it and making it to shape to put it in the base. Checking how I like it, and then with a little bit of strength I am creating it for the base. So I put it in place and covered the joints with more putty and created also some little stones in a part that it will be water. And now a very interesting and useful passage. With wood glue and water I am actually trying to seal the pores of the organic materials and also of the putty to create a smooth texture. It's very important to do this, because organic materials, well, they can decay, so I prefer to seal them first with glue and then also with paint. Paint could create molds actually, so it's better if this type of materials are sealed anyway with some other type of medium, in this case wood glue, so that you avoid this type of problems. And this is why I'm doing this passage with these rubber tools. So now I am painting with black the base. It's a Molotov black, it's glossy. So I cover everything because yes, even if I have some wood in place that will be painted as wood, it needed to be painted in scale. And then with the Kimera black, I'm giving another pass because I need a matte surface to paint on top with other matte colors. So this is why I'm doing this. More information on this actually on the video about frosting that you find in this channel. And now that is finished, I start to paint with my palette, composed of mostly colors from the Fabrizio Russo range. This is the poison green mixed with a Van Dyck brown and a purple to create the water. As you noticed, these colors are not the pure colors used in the first part of the painting of the miniature actually. I'm using mostly neutral and grayed tones to create the palette. Now with the darkness and the dark honey, I'm creating a brown. I'm doing this because I need something that is not a precise color. I need something muddy on purpose. So I'm using muddy color with interesting tones that resembles the palette that I already used in the piece. This is why there is a purple there, but it's not exactly the same. Now with the darkness and the bone khaki and all the colors really that I have in the palette, I'm creating a muted brown to create rocks. And I'm changing a little bit the colors as I go to create variation. This is actually very important when you paint bases. Create variations. Because nature is extremely varied. It changes a lot. So don't be precise. Don't paint by numbers. This is very important in base. Change your stuff, change the colors, vary the tones in the base colors. Then you will achieve a unified look with the lights, but in this step, go wild. As you can see, actually I try to be more green near the water and less green in the other parts, as a rule of thumb. So I'm creating more warm wood colors now for the trees. In the end, it's about creating browns that you like. And the feeling of the wood will change based on how you paint the lights in the end. I'm trying to paint new lights based on the direction of the light that I chose also for the model. I remember how I painted the model, but you should check now and then if the light on the base is coherent with the light you painted on your model. Otherwise they will look detached. They will not look like they are in the same spot, if you understand what I mean. So right now I'm being saturated on purpose because I know that I will be desaturated later with the lights. So I need to preserve some saturation in the midtones, otherwise everything will look completely grey. As you can see, I'm increasing the lights with the greys and the bone khaki and the greens because I had a green light in the model. So everything will look desaturated with the lights, as you can see right now. But there is still a lot of information about color. And now the wood is starting to pop thanks to the contrast. Hey, do you want to know what paints we use in our miniature painting? Kimera Kolors is the answer. They are single pigment, supersaturated and matte acrylics. When mixed, they give pure vibrant results without any unwanted grey tones, and because it's easier to desaturate than to saturate, you have complete control over your color choices. Upgrade to Kimera Kolors for your next work and see the difference for yourself. Link in the description. Okay, now I'm putting some black and I put also on the palette the satin medium. I'm doing a very dark mix with purple and black to create strong shadows right now. Always useful to create big contrast. And this is a similar shadow that I used on the model too, if you remember. And I used the satin medium to make it satin, not too matte, because satin paint is deeper than matte paint, so for shadow is extremely good. As you can see, I'm increasing the shadows in the rocks to make them look more three-dimensional. And creating also some wood grain. The mix of bone khaki, black and the dark onion, creating a lighter grey to start increasing the light on the rock. Of course it is a grey, and this will work for rocks. You can paint rocks of any color. It's important that they are desaturated, mostly, depends. But if you go for grey rocks, they need to be desaturated, not without color. Color is extremely helpful to create mood. So as you can see, I'm creating saturated greys with the green, for example, so that everything will look similar in regard to the color of the light, that is greenish, and not too desaturated, not completely desaturated. This is a common mistake when painting rocks, that we tend to be too literal with the grey. There is a lot of nuances in grey that you can use. And of course, by contrast, when you put something more saturated near a desaturated rock, even with full colors, with a lot of colors, they still look like desaturated rock in the end, because of contrast in saturation. I also try to be very loose with my brush stroke to create some noise in the rock. And you can achieve this even with a bigger brush. I'm using a small brush, but I think it was a mistake. With a bigger brush at the beginning, I would have achieved maybe a better noise than what I got, especially on the top part. Now with the bone khaki and the poison green, I'm doing even more contrast and noise on these rocks to achieve more contrast and definition and make them stand out more. And the green is used because in the Obitus model I was actually using greenish lights in the end, even if it was with a different green. But we will see this later. This is actually an important point, how to match the colors of the model and the color of the base. This is super important. But you'll see it in a few minutes. As you can see now, the contrast is really appearing and rocks start to look like rocks. This is a very fun part to paint. I urge you to experiment with this type of painting. It's very liberating, it's very free. As you can see, I made a wash out of bone khaki to unify the color of the rock, so that everything looks cohesive at this point and all the big differences are being smoothed out. And now I'm going with the poison green in the base. I'm creating this little lake, poisonous lake, to complement a Nurgle model. As you can see, I didn't dilute it much. I'm creating a strong, thick layer of paint. I'm staying a little bit away from the edges of the rocks to create a shadow somewhat, or a perception that the rock keeps going down in depth in the water. Now I'm putting a turquoise deep heavy body to create a darker bluer green to do the shadows. And paint them around the rocks and around the borders to simulate the rock that is prosecuting inside the water. And it also separates the elements quite well. And if you ask why the turquoise dip from Liquitex instead of the turquoise dip from Kimera, actually, it's because it's glossy, first of all, and second of all, because I didn't have the color at the time, so I couldn't. But it's the exact same tone that is in the Kickstarter set, actually. And now I'm using the green also on the rock to match the color a little bit and making it bleed into the various elements and make it a cohesive look. Now I'm doing some lights and some movement on the on the surface, not to make it look too still, too perfect. Nature is wild, so it needs to be represented as such with the texture and the brushstroke. And doing lighter and smaller dots on the water. When you want to do noise on something or texture, it is good to overdo it. A lot of overlapping strokes will make a thing look more natural, because nature is extremely complex and it's very difficult to represent this type of complexity with a few brushstrokes. So when you do a lot of them, it actually looks better than with few of them. Well, unless you are a god level painter that with just a few brushstrokes can achieve the feeling of the thing. But until you reach that, I suggest the more you do, the better it looks. And now I'm painting little ripple effects around the rocks to sell the movement of the poisonous water better. And I try to be not symmetrical in this. Nature avoids symmetry, defies symmetry a lot. The more symmetrical you are, the more artificial it looks. So you need to be asymmetrical as much as possible. Okay, now is the moment of truth, and is checking if the model has the same light as the base or not. And I saw that no, it's not like this, so I need to make the two things be coherent. So I was checking against the model and trying to create the right color to put on the base. As you can see, I'm creating a more desaturated gray because the base was actually too saturated compared to the rest of the model and it was clashing. So I'm now fixing the base with putting some extra light to match the level of overall contrast of the model and the color of the light. And this is where knowing a little bit how to color match is extremely useful. I made a video on this if you didn't watch it. And now I'm putting some extra color on the base too to make it more alive, now that I matched the light on the model. Well, matched. I improved on it, but it's not yet perfect. And I am creating a little bit of extra tones on the wood, because now I know how it looks with the model in, so I needed a little bit of extra saturation there and some extra light parts. Now I'm creating this very dark purple because the model has several purples in it and the base has none, so I needed it too. This matching and bleeding the colors of the model into the base It's so useful to make it look coherent. Now I picked the oxide green that I used on the model, and I am creating a similar light that it was used on the model, a final light, white and oxide green together. Things are starting to meld. I'm reinforcing a little bit the light on the model. And recovering a little bit some lost part during the process. This color will create a merging of the color of the water and the color of the rocks, representing a little bit of the reflection, the caustic reflection of water in the rocks. Doing a good base is actually very important to sell a paint job on a model, especially in the case of display bases. So you should take care of them and not just leave them as an afterthought at the end. Now I'm using this tiny grass to put on the model, as you can see, and this is fundamental. Paint them, paint the grass, because the grass will clash a lot. It will feel very fake if you don't paint it. So now I'm making it darker. I'm painting a very dark green with my greens in the shadow part, and now I'm doing the light on the grass, similar to the light on the model. I use the color very dry in this case. For the shadows is very liquid, for the light is very dry. And as you can see, the look of this grass is now coherent with the rest of the vase. And now these are pastels. I'm doing some little pastel shading. It's black and burnt sienna. Only burnt sienna on a side. And I'm doing this shading on the base to make it look dusty, lived. I apply it without any water, with a dry brush, and this will tint a little. And with this darker mix I am doing it a little bit darker on some spot. And the pastel will make it look more natural. I sometimes use pastel too on the models actually to shade and to blend the paint at the end, because pastels are really very useful in blending. So I sometimes use it on the skin tones, on the shadows of the skin tone, to make them saturated and look blended. As you can see, I'm doing it also on the feet of the model to make it coherent with the rest of the base. And now with the bone khaki and white, I am retouching the lights on the model. I'm increasing the contrast on the non-metallic metal because I want it to look more metallic, so I need a higher contrast in there. These finishing touches are what makes a model alive, so don't skip on them. So metal for me needed more contrast, and I went and retouched some last lights. See how it pops? I'm also blending with the Van Dyck brown the blade to make it reflect a little bit of the ambience that is brown. And with the Darkone it's lighter right now, so I have nuances, and the ambience is reflected in the metal. I'm staining the lower part of the model with colors used in the base right now to tie both things together. So I'm creating these little stains here and there at the end with the colors of the base. Also some lighter stains to give it more contrast. It's important that you work a bit in these things, otherwise it feels like a mistake in the painting instead of being weathering. So you need to be decisive and thorough when you do these kind of things. With the Van Dyck brown that is transparent, I'm creating this type of oil stain or grime, because why not? It's a Nurglish model. I don't want it to be a model out of the factory, so I'm creating this black brown stains. And now with the poison green and Darkone, I'm creating this greenish reflection to the axe, because there is the green water, and I need this to tie the water together with the model. And that's basically it. And that's it for this Obitus series. If you liked the video, please put a like and a subscribe to our channel, so you will get notification for the new videos that will come up every couple weeks. And if you want to support this channel, go to the pegasoword.com website to grab the same paints and tools and miniatures that I use for the videos. If you have any question, drop it in the comments down below, and have a great day and see you next time.